And Mr. Lang. Okay. We had some public participation, and Mr. Tickle.
Some good
You have
stuff
3 minutes.
right there. Some very good stuff. It's good that the kids are, that sounds like it helps with peer pressure and everything with the tutoring and all that. I mean, it just, yeah, very good. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for being on the board, because I know it takes out of your time. And I know you're here because you care about the kids. And that's kind of why we're here too. I'm a pastor. I've got children in my fellowship in this school, and I'm here to just say a little bit about the books that are in the library. State representative we had conversation with told us that we should check out the selection online, because there's a lot of districts that have books that aren't appropriate for children, and we've come across some inappropriate literature in our middle school and high school here. Honestly, I think it needs to be addressed. And it's not about censoring. What it is about responsibility. I don't think anybody here would have obscene material in your home where your children or your grandchildren could have access to it. You know, I think it's in a way it's responsible censorship to protect our children in our homes, right? And I think we use that same thing here. If you don't, it could be considered abuse, right? And I think we should use the same precautions in our school, where we're dealing with young minds that aren't completely developed yet, and they need our protection. They need our mature. You know what? Everything's blurry here because I forgot to put on my glasses. And I'm okay. So anyway, what we want to do is we want to make you aware, and we're asking it just as concerned citizens. That's why some of us are here today. We pay taxes, we vote. That you don't ignore this and just hope it'll go away. These are children that we've entrusted with your care. And you know, you actually have the law on your side to deal with obscenity in the library, which says that we're not to expose our children to obscene literature. Reno versus ACLU, bill number 521 US 844, transmitting obscenity and child pornography, whether via the internet or other means, is illegal under federal law for both adults and juveniles. And obscenity is defined by our courts as anything that might include visual depictions, spoken words, or written texts. Okay, so this is a very slippery slope, you know. And I understand it can be very difficult, but it filters into all kinds of other issues that we're running into, not just here, but across our nation, with boys and girls in locker rooms, with, you know, shared, you know, all the stuff that we see going on that can be very uncomfortable. And it's what we feed into their minds that forms their character, right? And we as pastors, is my time up? Okay, all right. Well, I just want to say that we as pastors, a lot of times we deal with the after effects of this, with the sexual exploitation and that kind of thing. And then our communities deal with it, and suicide rates are going up. And so we just want to make you aware, and, you know, and ask that you look into it. Thank you, appreciate it.
And Melody,
As my husband shared, I just want to thank you first for being involved in the Mount Vernon schools, and to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want you to imagine it's your daughter's 15th birthday party with her friends and family gathered around. Are you going to give her a copy of the Girls in Translation and maybe have her read a little bit of this to the group? He caught me by the sleeve, and his hands were pulling me back. I closed my eyes. I felt his arms go around me, and before I knew it, his hands went under my shirt, stroking and tantalizing. He kissed me, and I stopped breathing. He was filled with need. He seemed unable to control himself. "Wait," I whispered. He already had my shirt off. We fell back on the pile of stuffed animal blankets. He pinned me to the mattress. His weight was delicious. Now he was moving his lips against mine, agonizing and luscious. The brush of stubble against my temple, the sweep of the hair. I feel I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I was his and he was mine. I could feel the heat of him burning through his wet clothes. He was a man possessed by grief and passion together. Finally, I made myself say very clearly, we have to use a condom. With some embarrassment, he regained control of himself. He took a deep, shuddering breath and said, I have a couple in my wallet. Let's use two, I said, just to be sure. Okay. But once he started to kiss me again, the taste and smell of him overwhelmed me, and I became frantic to get his clothes off too. I felt hypnotized as if it was a dream, and I kept thinking, this is Matt. He's mine now, mine at last. I looked at him up close, and he was more beautiful than I ever imagined. The shimmer of his eyelashes, the thin white scar that ran across his collarbone, the darkened hollow of his throat. Despite all my experimentation, I'd never been naked with a man before, and Matt's skin felt warm and rough. He must have taken care of the condom somehow, and suddenly he was inside of me. I gasped, but it hadn't hurt as much as expected it to, and then I couldn't think of it anymore. This is a book that's in the Mount Vernon Middle School Library, and I don't think any of you would want your 15-year-old child to be reading this book. Enclosed in these packets, and I'm going to hand you, is a statement from the U.S. Department of Justice website that discusses obscenity. Federal law strictly prohibits distribution of obscene matters to minors. Any transfer to attempt to transfer such matters to a minor under the age of 16, including over the internet, is punishable under federal law. In addition, visual representations such as drawings, cartoons, or paintings that appear to depict minor engagement in sexual activity are obscene and also illegal under federal law. It appears that the members of the board, the superintendent, some of the librarians must be guilty of trafficking and pornography to our children. I point this out because if you're not interested in taking care of our children by not providing pornography, maybe you would be interested in saving yourself from serious legal action that might land you behind bars, or at minimum expose you to a lot of public exposure for the role of your child abuse. I suggest you read the handout in entirety and not ignore it. It may be a good starting point for discussion for your attorneys. And I have a handout I'd like to give you all. I sent all of these to you at the beginning of last week, I believe. I know Mrs. Bennett, you also responded to it, and I appreciate it.
Okay.
While she's handing that out, we don't usually respond to comments during the meeting, but I will say that I did get a copy of the email as well. And out of my quick interest, I wanted to see if we had these books. 6 of the 13 books we do have. I've not read the 6 books that we have. I mean, there's 7 that we didn't. We have 27,000 copies of books in the middle school library. And there's 2 real distinctions I think it's really important to make clear. There's books that we mandate our children to read. Okay, those might be the ones that they're reading in class together as a novel or a book. And so when we mandate those kind of books, certainly we have to be even more sensitive as to what we're doing. When you get 27,000 copies of other things that kids get to check out, we certainly have the ability, you have the ability to preview those if you want to bring those to the board out of concern. We do have a process for that, and I think Mrs. Tickle, did I send you something relative to getting together? I would share with you what that process is. Needless to say, I do take censoring and banning books seriously. We've got to be really careful. It is a slippery slope. And that's why we do have a process, and it involves making sure we read a book in its entirety and that we have a form that's filled out, and it will reference page and concern, and then there's a committee that gets together and they look at that together and determine the context and those kinds of things. And ultimately they'll make some decisions based upon those books. I will say that several years ago, we instituted a policy across the district. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but we wanted to make sure our parents were able to have conversations with their students about books they check out. So there is no student that can check out a book that you don't get an email about. And we did that for you as parents to kind of help monitor what your children read. You can only imagine with 27,000 copies, probably over decades, that allows you to have that very personal conversation about a book that your son or daughter might read. And we thought that was a really nice safeguard to make sure we had in place. And some folks just don't know about those, right? And so we do take those matters seriously. I know it's a hot topic. We know it's a hot topic, and we're very cognizant of that, and we'll address it when we kind of bring it through a process. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I also would like to comment. I think that there's a big difference whether we have books on display and are encouraging students to read them, or whether they're on an online website that is promoted by the state or approved by the Ohio Department of Education. And those we don't have as much control over. You can't very well say, out of these, 100,000 books, we want this one taken out. But I think you mentioned the process, which I think is a good one. And I also think that we need to realize that this is an opportunity for you while your child is still in your home to talk with them about what they're reading, to help them make good choices while you're there before they leave your home and are making choices. We can't control all the evil in the world, but you can certainly teach your children to make good choices and to choose things that you want them to read and to uphold your values. So I guess I would think of it as a learning opportunity as well. But
Can I just make one comment? That I spoke to the State Board of Education person, and she said that it is at the local level that you are supposed to take care of this issue. So I don't know if it's going to do any good to go to the State Board and say anything about the books that they are promoting here. They say it's on you. So
I'm just saying,
let you know
if
that.
it's, we have books that we purchase, but we also have online websites that our students have access to. So I don't know which it is. I haven't.
Info Ohio serves all the districts in the state of Ohio from a library perspective, and they have a lot of online books. I don't know if our students have Info Ohio accounts or not. I'd have to double check that. But again, there is a process for that, and we want to be mindful of that. And we'll address those as we need to address them. I'd be interested when we're done, the book you were kind of reciting from, of the ones I checked, we had 6 of those books of the 13 in our library currently. I'd be interested if that was one of them, or
It
if it
was
was.
not. This was one I just heard about recently, or that I found recently in the books of the library here.
But we do have it in our library.
Yes, ma'am.
In our middle school library, our high school library.
You know what the title of that was? You can give
Girl
us
in, Girl in Translation.
Girl and Translation.
By Jean KWOK.
That wasn't on this. That wasn't on this list. Must be a different
No,
list.
like I said, it was just something
Okay.
recently I read about. It was
Do you mind checking on
after I
that,
set
Mr.
that
Rose?
out.
Yes. And getting back to me? Yep. We got the middle school principal here.
Perfect. Okay, moving ahead, we have Tom Pappas.
Yes, thanks so much. My wife Christy and I are relative newbies here in Mount Vernon. We've only been here a couple of years. I'm here, recurrent theme, because of my understanding that the book from which this lady just quoted is in your middle school library. I'm not going to pretend to know that I know a lot that I don't, so I'm going to take a very small portion of my 3 minutes to tell you just a little bit about who I am. I, in fact, was Dean of Students at Worthington Kilburn High School in the years that the president of the Ohio Education Association was a history teacher with us, and he could speak concerning my commitment to fairness and student advocacy. I am certified in English, I have a master's in as well as a bachelor's in history, so I have a broad liberal arts education. I'm very much of an advocate of artistic license and progressive thinking, but to think that a book like this, from which Melody has quoted, is in a middle school library, to me that goes beyond the pale of giving students an opportunity to make wise decisions. That kind of literature should absolutely be precluded from shelf life in a middle school. And again, I don't think we can just chalk it up to provincial thinking or closed-mindedness. Unfortunately, as a dean, for the years that I was at Worthington Kilburn, I know what it's like to have parents come in with attorneys and tape recorders, so I regret never having come here before this occasion to tell you thank you for the investment you're making in young people's lives. The occasion is in fact is now when I have understood that there's an issue, but thanks for your graciousness to give me a voice, and appreciate your willingness to hear me out.
And we have Teresa Gray.
Hi. I'm on the same lines, and actually I have copies of books, and then there's summaries. If you want to take the time, and I can pick them up, when I'm done. You can just look at some of the summaries of the books in line. And some out to the audience too. And that's all I really have. Thank you.
Do we have these, do you think, or?
Yes, they are. They are.
Okay.
Yeah, I took it off right off the,
Teresa, you were in the libraries and found these books, is that what you're saying?
yes, Mount Vernon Middle School.
And we have Ashley Vance.
Hi, my name is Ashley Vance. I'm not from here, I'm a transplant, but we moved here. I've been part of tutoring or mentoring or coaching Mount Vernon youth for about 10 years. So, we're all here for the same reason, we're all here for kids. I'm a hands-on mom. I don't leave my kids at practice when they play sports. If I can volunteer, I want to know what they're doing. I want to be part of it. I want to know what they're learning. I want to know who's interacting with them. So also as parents, we make mistakes. So I had something slip through my fingers. I'm disappointed that in myself and also how the school is handling it. I got a paper, found it bundled up in the bottom of my daughter's book bag yesterday. It was about a sexual education video for 5th grade that is being shown. The only way to not have your child see that video is to sign the form opting out. Mr. Cedar, you mentioned that every time my child takes a book out of the library, I get an email. I look at those. I see those every time. I see those every week. Every time they go on a field trip, if they want to be part of the Rocks program with Mrs. Valentine, if they want to participate in STEAM Club, I have to sign a paper saying they can do that. So why was my only option of opting out? I had to sign a form, and I had to trust that my child gave it to me, so I had the opportunity, that she didn't want to go because that's what her friends were doing, and just not turn it in. I'm assuming that those decisions are made by the board, because I spoke to Mrs. Shively this afternoon. She explained to me that that is a Mount Vernon City School policy. It's not an East Elementary policy. That's a conversation for me to have with my child. I have talked to my child about that. I have educated her appropriately. I don't want the school to do that. That's my right as a parent, that I feel like you all have taken something from me. I understand why you want to teach that in your schools. I understand there are a lot of parents that aren't having those hard conversations, but that's not me. I have an email, I have a phone number. I respond well every time the school has ever contacted me with a problem. inappropriately. That's why I'm here tonight, to make you aware. I don't think that it's appropriate that I only had one opportunity to opt out. I should have had more opportunities. It should have come in an email form. It should have come in a text message form. Should have had a phone call. It should have been something somewhere, because when I sign up on my portal, when I update that for you all every year, I provide you with my phone number and I provide you with my email. I respond to remind messages, Class Dojo. Nothing came but this one piece of paper. So I want you all to just recognize that I feel like there's a missed opportunity there, that people's children are being talked to or shown things. I don't know what was in the video that they saw. I've asked for a copy. I have not received that back. But I'm not happy that that happened, because I'm a responsible parent and I feel like it should be my right to teach my child those. I feel like that's a health issue that should be taught at home if that's what I choose to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I certainly will find an opportunity to get you a copy. They've been showing that video for years and years. It's part of the curriculum. I think it's actually done by the health department, so before maybe we think it's got something really salacious in it, I'd love for you to get a copy and a chance to see it. But I understand what you're saying about the opt-out, but I honestly, in my time here, 10 years, I've never had
I
any.
know my girls saw it when they were it's a fifth grade film that all students watch, and the boys and girls. So it has been going on for a number of years, and it is done by the health
I
department.
thought it was more about hygiene and
It is.
cleanliness.
Correct.
And
Yes.
And I don't know,
Yes.
I haven't seen it, I've asked,
Yes.
but
Mm-hmm.
just as they're stating, they have books that are in your middle school and your high school. I don't know what was in it. When I see the video, whether I agree with what's in it or not, I would have opted out for my child, and I feel like I should have had an additional way to opt out. The children could have just not turned those papers in because they wanted to do what their friends were doing. I don't think it's fair to parents.
Thank you.
With our instant connect, it would have been easy to send a text.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And those are the end of our comments. So, at this time, for anybody who would like to leave,
You could stay for the business part.
you're welcome to stay, but you're welcome to leave as well. So, and thank you for coming. If you choose to-
Mr. Gross.
Hi.
We have some no board items, so we can skip to additional deletions.
I do have a number of,
Or is that one that couldn't really figure that? There was two different ones, and I didn't know the difference between.
yes, we probably should take care of this.
Yeah, okay. I'll look that up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Under additions and deletions, we do have fiscal services, a donation from the First Christian Church. Under business services, it was actually in the wrong section. The nationwide MOU should have been in items for consideration and not informational items. And in the personnel certificated staff, we have a substitute teacher and unfortunately another resignation. So we wanted to make sure we added those items or adjusted those items as necessary.
Thank you. And if you'd like to go.
I would.
District update.
I have just a brief update. It seems like we just met recently, and I feel like I want to play it, but I know we've had a little longer meeting than maybe we have traditionally done, but I won't do the whole slideshow. I'll just move these things down. So Senior Citizens Luncheon is Thursday, and we're excited about that again. We kind of put some deadlines in there to let us know, but trust me, we keep taking them and taking them, and we had a few calls today. So anybody who's interested in a Senior Citizens Luncheon, there it is. This is one that, you know, if I felt like we had time, or if you say, Bill, show this, I would like to do that. But Senior Alex Buer is part of our Global Scholars Diploma group. And his project was selected above a lot of folks to be part of this panelist on WBNS Channel 10 TV. His video that he put together is really, really well done. It's 8 minutes long. And so maybe I would just encourage you to go in and look at it. But he's got some nice footage, music, his voiceovers, and again, really well done. And I will say,
Can we ask the board, are you?
you want to see it quick?
I'd like to see it
I'd
now.
like to
Minutes?
see it.
Sure, I think it's worth it.
Well, let's do it then.
The World Health Organization claims that some 75% of the world population lives in less than 50. This quantitative poverty is causing epidemic and malnutrition, leaving the children of the my family and I actually had the opportunity to go to Guatemala. Completely changed my personality. Really changed the next years. These small changes are huge. Didn't have the same. Would once they grew up have jobs that were sufficient enough to properly this experience. Radicalization. I've been a problem in different demonstrate how easy it is for people. This is terrible. the application of country, nations of the United States. College project. Location or tools necessary.
I wish you could do it that fast.
Yeah, really. And that's the greenhouse at the high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
We should be given a content check on the plants. At the end of the day, I might actually been able to hire. Project has taught me that the roots of our problems are important to me, I think. Feeling universality.
It's great.
Great.
Wow.
Very impressive.
You can see why he was probably picked, and he'll be on this panel tomorrow, and so, it's exciting. Yeah, they put that together on their own computer with digital footage and voiceover and things like that. I will say that we have 44 students now participating in the Global Scholars Diploma Program, and they're just getting some really valuable experiences, seeing the world in a different light. And, could be so focused right here on Mount Vernon, and we kind of get insulated as to what the world is all about. And so there's some other wonderful projects that we're doing. His just happened to be highlighted, and I thought it was appropriate to highlight it for you there.
Do we have any opportunity for the community to see their projects?
We did put this on our website.
Okay.
And I know John has it there. And I know a year or two ago, I think we even had Clay Tochif came in and shared some other projects that were going on. This one just happened to kind of catch that idea. And then the last thing I have in my short time, Stephanie Plumley is our FFA of OAG advisor, and she is being recognized by the Ohio Education Association as an education champion. And so this is real quick. So it's really a quick 30-minute plug for Stephanie, but it's a plug for our program and the school, so we're proud of her efforts there as well, so.
I'm really sorry that I dismissed people. Encourage them to understand. I thought it was a good time to leave, but it should have been now instead. So, apologize for that.
Under item B, which are the items for board approval tonight, we've had these board policies for the past 2 months. It's a larger group than normal, but a lot of them are kind of just kind of technical correction kinds of things. Some are certainly more relevant, like the meeting the state standards. You know, we used to be an A through F system. We're now a 5-star system, so they had to go in and change those things. Volunteers is now changed to a pupil activity permit, so most of them are pretty simple. So we had that group that was volume 41. They had some special technology updates that were just about technology. And then they also had a tobacco update, and a lot of those are just very simple for your approval. And then the second item here is to recommend the board approve the master mechanic position to be added to the OPSI master agreement. So unfortunately, we had our bus mechanic leave for a new job, and we've had a really hard time trying to find qualified mechanics at the level that they come in at on the negotiated agreement for OPSI. And working very closely with OPSI and trying to get creative, we were able to create a separate master mechanic scale, even though it's really a one-person scale. Be more clear about what we're looking for there, and we were able to set a rate that we felt like we could at least compete to get someone. As you well know, we have 22 full-time routes. We need a true head bus mechanic that can keep our fleet running and on the road. So those 2 items for your approval tonight.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those 2 items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, student achievement liaison report. With success for this year, I picked 4 to briefly mention. The first is pretty interesting. It's about a school in Texas, Robstown Early College High School. And they offer a veterinary medical program that students can earn a TEA-approved industry certification in veterinary assisting that will help them qualify for a job at an animal clinic. And the instructor teaches principles of agriculture, and the students learn handling, nutrition, suturing, injection, grooming, charting, and how to become a vet tech. And this has become a really popular program, apparently. The second one is ChatGPT sends shockwaves across college campuses. And the reason is because ChatGPT doesn't copy old words. So that I had a professor tell me once that one of the funniest things that ever happened was when he received identical papers from 2 different students because they both purchased them. And unfortunately, they both purchased the same papers.
Andrew's living there.
Anyway, ChatGPT is harder to spot because it doesn't copy old words, it creates new ones, and that complicates the task of identifying cheating. But these are some ways that professors have worked around that by using small seminars. And an English professor at the University of Central Oklahoma has students submit papers in 3 rounds of review, 1 from peers, 1 from the professor, and then 1 from Chatbox itself will give you the feedback and tell you what it thinks about what you've written. So That's how to combat that, I guess. And then the third article is on 5 ways to make your science classroom more culturally responsive. And the third and the fifth suggestions I thought were probably the most interesting. To facilitate student-led inquiry and experiential learning. And they gave an example in a physics class. Students explored concepts in sound and energy through learning about musical instruments in various cultures and how they employ the principles of sound to create music. Students engaged in the engineering design process to create and test their own musical instruments, such as they would investigate how you manipulate the aspects of the instrumental design, such as the length of the woodwind or the tension on the strings, etc., and how that would impact the sound and the sound created, and then why, and that would be the science involved. And then the fifth was to provide positive role models for students by inviting members of the community from diverse cultural backgrounds to discuss careers and experiences, and such as the STEM Talks monthly series that they host. And one of the teachers commented, if students can see it, they can be it, especially if they're seeing people of their own culture who are successful in those fields. And then the sixth one is addressing middle schoolers' reading gaps and bridging foundational reading gaps in middle school. Teachers at the secondary level really had little knowledge or training in foundational reading skills. They were more into comprehension, and they underwent some literacy instruction, and had a summer reading invitational for 4 weeks, 3 hours in the AM and 3 in the PM after 12. And they kept their numbers very small so that instruction would be intense. And the results, they found that all students except one gained from 3 to 5 levels on the phonological awareness screening test, which was passed, the SAT. And also observed gains in vocabulary, stamina, discussion skills, and general attitude toward reading. So they hope to continue to do that. And they mentioned two games that were very effective, and they were the Daily Word Ladders by Timothy Rosinski for 4th through 6th grade, and then Daily Word Ladders Idioms for 4th grade and above. And that was one of the comments that I thought was interesting. Some of the students said, these are baby courses because they're learning phonics and things that they should have learned in 3rd grade or earlier. But they tried to combat that with using these types of texts with the ladders because they tended to be fun, so the kids didn't mind that. And then the research article is really on autism in the U.S. and pointing out how it's on the rise. But the authors felt that this reflects the increased identification of children at younger ages, such as 4-year-olds. And they used the data from 11 states and over 250,000 students, 226,339 special education records is where they gleaned their data. So. Any questions?
The AI stuff is
Yeah.
it's beginning a little spooky, I think, as time's gone on. And
This morning, I guess I will make a comment. This morning, Andrew Lloyd Webber was speaking about the closing of Phantom of the Opera on Broadway, and he mentioned that AI is being used to create new music, but some of the music has become more popular in Australia by AI than some of the writers and composers. So I think it's something that we're going to all have to address eventually. It's out there.
My husband gave me a whole page article. I didn't have time to read it, but on AI, and it's in the paper. So I'll have to read that. But yes, it's something we're going to have to deal with.
we have one item in the section for board approval tonight. It's the FFA National Convention next year in Indianapolis, Indiana on November 4th. So that's an FFA grades 9 through 12.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve that item.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann.
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Were there any questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr.
Mr. Workman? Yes. Mr. Ward? Yes. Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Dr. Dunn?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And you're up, our treasurer.
You can't blow past the good stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's great stuff.
Whether you want that or not, there you go.
Yeah.
Jump right in there. Yeah, I let two of our members know at our preview that we have done some additional investing. Actually did it because the board gives me authority in our January meeting. Actually did it right before the major bank collapse. So I was very nervous.
Yeah.
And so I was reassured that we had no investments that would be at that level of risk. So we've got some additional money out there. We've been able to get, what seems, very small, 2, 3, even 4%, but compared to what we were getting, it's just a massive increase. So excited about that, excited to continue to see that grow.
And that's year to date. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be a banner year. Well done.
A lot better than the year before.
Oh,
That's for sure.
absolutely.
So typical monthly report, I will point out, you can see the top line, you see a negative number. But you'll see fiscal year to date, we've had $17 million and some change come in from general property tax. What we do is we receive our advances, and most of you are very familiar with this. And then we take the fees out at the very end. So just in this cycle, we got about $9 million that came in, and then obviously the county, we pay their fees and we take it out of the last settlement, so to speak. So that's why you see a negative number there, is just us paying the fees to the county. You see some pub money in there, which we like to see. Obviously, our monthly state foundation comes twice a month. So you're used to all of those other things. I will point out one other thing. It was a 3-pay month, which I've mentioned before. We all love because there's no insurance fees that come out of that, and no association or OPC fees come out of it. But it's not great for the bottom line,
Yeah,
but we all love it when we get the paycheck. So
There's two sides to it.
yeah, that's really it. If you continue to scroll down, you'll see the additional general fund dollars. Next page, Mr. Cedar. So we had about $700,000 invested. We increased it by $1 million just because we're sitting on cash as a result of the ESSER funding. As we all know, that's going to rapidly decrease, but while we have it, we ensured we put it in stuff that we could claw back if needed. The bottom line is really important for me because I want to have the flexibility to be able to bring money back if needed within the district. So we don't want to invest it all out 5 years and have to take a penalty if we would need to draw it back in.
And maybe you should explain to the public that public entities like schools have certain restrictions.
Yeah, I don't point this out most months because oftentimes, we've invested in commercial paper or something and we just wait and then we get it'll change rapidly and then not change at all for a while. So, but as Dr. Bennett pointed out, we are highly regulated in terms of where we can invest money. I can't just willy-nilly decide to buy, Apple stock or whatever. So we work with Meter, who ensures we meet all of the regulations that are levied on schools and public entities. So we have very low risk, but because we have very low risk, sometimes our yields aren't super productive. But it's been a good year, and I'll take it. No, that's it in terms of that. I do have an amendment, and I mentioned in preview that I got to do a much better job of my estimating when we budget this, but this isn't general fund, so it doesn't give me too much cause for concern. This is a 300 fund, which consists of everything from athletics to, we've ramped up our plays and our forum shows again, and I didn't take those into consideration when we put out our initial appropriations. So they are spending a lot of money because they're making a lot of money, which is a good thing. So this doesn't impact general fund dollars. This is all essentially gate receipts that are being brought in and then spent on our students. So I don't mind seeing it. I just need to do a better job estimating it. I think I have one donation, and then also the donation that Mr. Cedar mentioned earlier in regards to the additions, we had the donation from the First Christian Church, and we also have a donation here, well, you got it on here, First Christian Church to the Columbia's PTO in the amount of $100. Greatly appreciate the First Christian Church for that donation. We are grateful.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those fiscal services items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Were there any questions? I guess I'd just like to comment, I appreciate, I know it's stressful to try to manage all that, but we appreciate your investing the money and going through all of that process and making it a little extra for us. So thank you for taking that initiative.
You're welcome.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Gulladye,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Dr. Burnett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Legislative liaison report.
Thank you. Just a brief outline. The House and Senate were on recess, and they were coming back today at the State House. But prior to the recess, several bills were introduced. HB 145 is in regard to purchasing authority for construction services. HB 146 would establish a contribution-based benefit cap in calculating a school employee's retirement system member's retirement benefit. 147 would make changes to teacher licensure, revocation, hiring practices, and conduct unbecoming to the teaching profession. SB 104 would make changes to the College Credit Plus program. And HB 135 would require schools to provide excused absences for students to participate in 4-H and FFA programs. HB 137 would require ODE to study the feasibility of implementing a similar program to the Kentucky Bluegrass Challenge Academy. And just a note that I did send emails to the two sponsors of the backpack bill, telling them that I would appreciate it if they would just fund public education amply and not divide up the pie. That's all I have right now. Is there any questions or anybody you want me to contact at the State House? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a couple items for board approval in this section. The first are facility use requests. We have a community concert association would like to use the high school theater to do the Winds of Ohio choral group. They found themselves in a real tough spot because they were doing some updating at Memorial Theater, so they didn't have a place to do it. So they contacted us, and we're gonna be like State Farm and be a good neighbor. And,
Paid advertisement.
The advertisement.
And then the other one is from Maximum Nutrition. They're gonna do some cardio drumming at Pleasant Street Elementary on Tuesdays. So those two facility use requests. And again, I mentioned at the earlier part of our meeting, this memorandum of understanding with Nationwide Children's Hospital. As you look through that document, the steering committee has been working on the operations side of things, and we feel really good with where we're at. I think the one thing that hopefully can leave some comforts for some folks who just continue to maybe be a little bit skeptical about the fact that we want to help, kids, but really there's that other worry. We have a severability clause in this MOU that provides us 30 days. And now we'll always would try to work out our differences, and hopefully we have no differences. But we have been very, very clear from the beginning about parent involvement and parents being part of the process. Nobody can be seen without parental consent. No matter what legislation is out there, I've heard some legislation might be out there that may try to do away with parental consent. We just, I believe as a board and as a community, feel like we want parents to be informed about what's happening there. And I trust that they're going to continue to meet those, for us. They're looking probably to do an open house probably within the month, just to kick things off. We're talking to them now about just having an opportunity to share flyer information with parents, to get those forms out if they want their kids to be involved, to ask any questions they might want to have, to tour the facility and those kinds of things. So just letting you know that's kind of around the corner. So those 2 items for your approval.
I would entertain a motion to approve those items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. And I guess the form is that the student has to have it filled out before they're seen. Okay. So it wouldn't be that anything could happen like the one parent mentioned.
They shouldn't see anybody unless they have a parental consent form on file.
Right. Is there any other questions or comments? It's exciting. It's a really neat facility for those of you who haven't been there yet. And if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And student services?
Nothing from the OHSAA, I don't think. And one item for board approval from Licking Rehab Associates. We'll do some work with them for occupational and physical therapy services. Oh, sorry, Pam.
No, it's standard.
You said it just fine.
Anything you'd like to add on that?
Not anything. You did it. You did great. Thank you.
So one item for your approval tonight.
I would entertain a motion to approve the Licking Rehab Association.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Were there any questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Abstain?
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And nurse personnel, certificated license.
There's no items for information tonight, but a number of items for board approval. We've broken this up into 2 sections. And the first, you'll see a few retirements. And again, hopefully we get a chance to honor and recognize those folks at our next board meeting, which will probably then be moved over to, I think we'll be moving over to Twin Oak, just because it provides a little bit more room. John will really be after me about not wanting to move, because he's trying to get the technology down here, and yet at the same time, it might be a challenge. We'll work that out. But Sabrina Pugh is going to be retiring, and Susan Rice, we got their retirement information. We have a number of resignations. You'll see there, the toughest one, actually, really 2 tough ones for Pam. Aiden, school psychologist, are so hard to come by. He's taking a job almost in his backyard, so it's hard to be disappointed or mad at him, of course, but and then, of course, speech language pathologists are just really hard to come by as well. So we have a couple continuing contracts for substitute teachers and supplemental contracts for your approval tonight.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Do I have a
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. And were there any questions? I see some longtime teachers on there that I'm gonna miss. If you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried.
We will be offering summer school again this year, and that will be free to our students who need that summer school support. We'll be utilizing some ESSER dollars to help support that. And you've approved a number of summer school supplementals. This is one we pulled out separate for Jill McClure for your approval tonight.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And if you'll call the roll, please.
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Abstain?
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And classified staff.
Our last section tonight are classified staff. One item for information, Christine Holman will be transferring from her 12-month maintenance secretary to assist Gary in the treasurer's office. Christine does just an outstanding job. Rick has been over multiple times. He has threatened to not clean Gary's office anymore.
I can only imagine.
Yep. They're unsecured office. They're all good, but she'll be missed there, but she'll certainly be welcome at central office. So wanted to put that transfer in for your information. And then for items recommended for board approval, we have just a number of items, a couple 2-year contracts, some summer work crew folks to help us in the summer. It's interesting, we're already talking about summer work crews. And then we do have one resignation, that was our bus mechanic. And that really has prompted us to kind of begin to really look far and wide for someone.
I would entertain a motion to approve those staff items as read.
So moved.
Thank you. Mrs. Gessman?
No second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. And were there any questions or comments? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Getzler. Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Roladai.
Yes,
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Board member comments. I would just like to take the opportunity to wish everyone the final countdown is here. We've got another 6.5 weeks for students and teachers, so that's exciting. And I guess I just encourage parents and students to finish strong, to work hard and finish what you've started and do a good job here at the end. Don't give up right here at the end, but continue to work hard and do your best. And we wish you well, and I hope everyone had a great spring break that refreshed you and ready to come back and finish the race. And I'm trying to remember who I didn't start with last time. Moving around. I think it maybe is your turn.
Is it all right?
Mr. Workman.
Yeah, I'd like to thank those that came or are listening in tonight. And also, you know, as we wrap up the school year, thank all the administration and staff. It seems like it's been a very good year, a lot of positive things happening. I did get to tour the health-based facility on Thursday with Gary, took me the grand tour. Beautiful facility, ready to go. So it looks great. It really does.
Okay, Mr. Ward.
Well, for everybody, first I have to thank my wife
I know.
and her colleague for their fabulous presentation on the tutoring program that they've instituted. I've gotten to watch it behind the scenes, and they're doing some good things. I'm hearing good things all along the way. So I think the other thing I want to thank first is to recognize, you know, a reminder that, you know, the principal, Darren Prince, has been on military leave, and really, you know, now that we're toward the end of the school year, I really want to thank, you know, Rob Gross and Robin Elliott and Jim Rader for stepping up and moving into those roles for us this year. It has been a good year, Tim. You're right. So just want to thank them publicly for stepping in for our middle school.
Thank you. Ms. Gladai.
thank you to those who are here and who are watching at home. I'd like to congratulate our In the Know team. They had a good showing, and I think they have an upcoming event. I can't remember if it's this month or in May, here at our facility, or no, at the public library. And I'd also like to congratulate all of our students and administrators and teachers. Where would we be without them? And where would we be without a supportive community? Everything that we do is for the children. And I think that shows in a very, very positive light to our community. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Mrs. Gessman.
Just thank you. I know we are in the midst of state testing, and that's always high tension, high stress for those that are executing tests and mailing tests and accounting for tests and taking tests, and the teachers and all of those. So I just say to parents, rest is key, routine is key, and good nutrition during this time. So good luck to all the teachers and the students as they embark on the dreaded state testing.
Yes.
Thank you. And I'd like to wish those who are in the play, I've heard from some parents how excited the kids are to produce this play Cinderella. So I hope it goes well and maybe kids have as much fun as they think.
I'm sure it's going to be wonderful.
On Thursday, at our senior citizens time together, we're going to share a few forum highlights. As you heard Ella mention, they had some fun, but also we're going to have about a 15-minute snippet of Cinderella,
Oh, good.
just to give our seniors a kind of a glimpse in, almost like a trailer. And I think maybe we'll find some seniors wanting to come on Friday or Saturday
Yeah.
to see the full production.
Great. Okay.
That's it. No need for,
Okay, I would entertain a motion then to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. McGuire. And could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried, and we are officially adjourned. Thank you all for coming.